is so concerned about insider threat, they stood out this new insider threat management center to kind of track the threat, because they are that concerned, because like we talked about, through AMUmail and all that, they're making sure you're not a bad guy, right? But just because you're not a bad guy doesn't mean you're not gonna be doing something bad, right? Just because you have nothing in your background doesn't mean you're not gonna go rogue, and they're very concerned. And they don't know how to, and they're having trouble coming up with a program to track it, so there is, there's potentially just a huge market. And I know the main thing is Android, but just want to.
Well, no, but I mean, the reason we're introducing it today, and I'm kind of getting out of my presentation here, but that's fine, because that's, we came here, and I feel kind of, and I brought you, by the way, remind me, I brought you a hard drive of everything essentially that we could pull out that we knew was still relevant. There's a lot of experimental stuff. Like I said, a lot of pieces lined up, a lot of stuff, but I've got a hard drive to give you that's got all that stuff.
Fantastic.
And because we were also, along the lines kind of what you're saying there, that the largest source of loss in American business is insider. And I don't know, I can't speak to the military, but without a doubt. The problem is it's sublimated, it's not reported. You can't really attract a lot of new employees if you sit there and tell people, well, we have this inside trade product. So we put all these security systems in-house. By the way, when you log on your computer, we're watching you 24/7.
Scott, I do have a question on
Yes.
that. So you're familiar with data loss protection technology, DLP. So how would you compare to DLP? Because DLP, I can set up all these rules on different file structures, data, down to metadata, even to pages. Somebody's snooping, I can see, I can do that. We implemented that.
Yeah, and that's
Or insider threat, and one of the things that we actually found was interesting, by the way. We knew when somebody was gonna leave their job. I could predict within 35 days to 45 days of when somebody was gonna leave their job. Oh, it's really easy. Simple, it's the simplest thing in the world.
Because they're linking your job sites.
No, they start taking data.
Yeah.
They start hoarding.
You start
data.
getting traffic. You know the
They
sales
start,
force.
they start taking certain data and engineers or contacts.
Wow.
Key things. So when I implemented DLP at our company, and you didn't know that, because you didn't share that with me at that time. But, so I would have a report, and like you said, IT was trustworthy, but I didn't trust anybody at IT even though I was running IT. They had access to keys, or the janitor, right? The other two people actually had more access than anybody else. No, that's the truth. Janitor from a physical perspective has access to everything, more than even the CEO.
Wow.
And they're paid $12 an hour.
Right.
With the vetting, and then you have the IT guys, the admin desktop guys, the domain guys, we go, oh, that's fine, but they have access to all the assets, right? So I use DLP to do that, so I'd love to, sort of, maybe not now, but later on to see how.
No offense, I'm going to make this personal and stuff
Yeah.
because it's easy. The
It-
problem with, no, it's not.
I have him on my side. And yours the army.
I want to make it personal is the problem with what you just said when you started the first sentence, we, you being, not you personal, but I mean, being the corporate structure. Intellectual property in the United States isn't governed by whose server it's on. Intellectual property in the United States is governed by who the author was, the original producer, content producer, who the owner of the content producer is. One of the greatest transfers of wealth in this country occurs when a songwriter goes to Sony and they create a song and they put it on their servers, and the first thing Sony says is, hey, my IT guy says, these are going to be the security attributes we're going to assign to this file. Except,
Howard.
okay, well, yeah.
The song, as soon as he says songwriter, and that's what happened. Few words.
Okay, but I can't stop me from talking.
By the way, just so sorry, I'm gonna get geeky with Scott. Worst effing technology I ever implemented was DLP.
No,
So much more time.
don't take anything I'm saying, just
No.
because I know.
I'd be interested to see what, if you had something, literally, I think what was sold to us, and by the time we implemented, were at least 5x the cost and implementation and time to get it to work. It was cool, but it was so difficult to get.
That's always the best.
Now they're using machine learning on pattern recognition.
And I hate to be, I don't want to be psychic, I don't know me and stuff, but I really know this area of the law. and one of the things that gets me,
It's a huge, huge demand for
huge,
DLP.
but it's like, I know a lot of math nerds, I do, and they spend all their time doing encryption and
It was just
all that stuff,
absurd.
and they think it's really cool. And then the guy who wants to steal cards, got rolling code encryption and key fob, he goes and takes a relay box and conveys that information, because at the end of the day, encryption means nothing. It's, what they don't understand about encryption is it's where you decrypt it to. Nobody focuses on that part of the problem. We have, and we address it, and because we don't care, you know, the fact of the matter is we don't care anymore because hackers don't care. But speak to the original thing. The thing with the DLP, if you are in an authoritarian top-down, and again, military has this because it's part of the thing, but if your approach to the thing is, I want to control my domain, DLP looks very attractive until you have to implement it. And the problem with modern, especially when you introduce mobile, is that a good percentage of the things that are on your server in the IT firm don't belong to you. They belong to vendors, employees, or all follow the man. And you're not really in a position to know which specific criteria should be applied to securing that specific digital asset, which is the level we're at. We're at digital assets and sub-digital assets. We look at, essentially, for our purposes, there's a school called files, and we actually go over that. We look at a file and say, you know, each individual file is throwing mismatch onto the server based on what the corporate need categorization is, which has nothing to do really with something about security concerns. Because I'm sitting there, I author a document, right? When I write I write a document to you, say it's an email for security. And I know that it's gonna wind up, you may forward to somebody else, but I don't know you're gonna do that, and I don't know to whom. But it's within your purview to do it, right? So, or somebody gets on a server or whatever, either rightfully or wrongfully, gets a server and gets a copy of that email. So it's going all over the place. Now, I'm not thinking about that when I write the document. I'm thinking, I'm talking to you. I may tell you things that I have a trust relationship with you and wouldn't want anybody else to see. So that's the crux of what's been intellectual property law, and that's the crux of security. It really is. That intellectual property starts then and there. And so I, at that point in time, know what my intent was. I should be able to enforce it. Now, if I can enforce it, and it can be done in such a way that can convey it across all these layers, transport, servers, other operating systems, like that, then I've taken away from IT departments any concern, unless they want to overlay their own security, which we allow them to do. But if I can do that and do that well, then IT doesn't have to care, right? They would assume that I, as the vested party, would be most concerned about my own IP, right? Now, obviously some of the stuff in the server is your own IP, so they would be the person in that driver's seat. But essentially, that's the key. The person who generates the IP is the person who should be able, for the lifetime of that IP, no matter what that IP, whatever context it's in, whatever content and whatever digital asset, should be able to control and constrain that, and should be able to do so dynamically. You know, I may like you, you may be my neighbor, we'll talk about the road then, right? So I may be you may be my neighbor, I give you something, some electronics, maybe it's an image of my daughter, you know, taking her bath, and all of a sudden I find out you're a pedophile, you know? But I mean, you know, I said, well, wait, so I need to be able to change that relationship ad hoc on the fly, right? You can't do that from, you know, you can't do that. You don't have any event you don't have, essentially, the worldview of the author and owner, the very sensitive person that owns that IP. He and only he, or she and only she, is the only person that knows, from the standpoint of that thing, what is important, what world events are likely to affect it, how can I change it, what would I do? That's our system, that's what we have done. We have said, we've taken a system, that's what AMUmails are. We've done two things. We've taken, unlike DLP, which is a rigidized, we have the same, DLP is to us synonymous with VMSs. Same problem, right? Top down, hierarchical, administered, rights relationship to which the original owner of the contract surrenders, all hit everything up to this set of anonymous people in an IT shop and the janitor. So that's what we said, you know, this is the crux of the problem. Everything we do, you'll see, is drill down. We try to get to the very bottommost and come back up. And so that's what this technology is about. We saw two problems. We saw that everybody in the world that with an IQ under 85 looks at the world as a stateful place, as that this, whatever's happening in your, is not gonna change. The world's not gonna change. It's gonna be this way forever. My friends are gonna be my friends, my job's gonna be my job, my girl's gonna be. And there is literally, if you get into Maslow's hierarchy, and so, there's a definition for that type of personality, whatever, and they stop right there. But the reality of the world is that every day we're changing. So the very first problem is that traditionally, we have always, the problem starts first when we put data, naked and afraid, out of the application onto a hard drive. But for the purpose of this, the problem with security-wise starts with when you start binding from the moment, the only control the author really has at that point is if they bind a static set of security criteria to that digital asset right then and there, right? Lock it down, as though nothing ever is going to be changed. Right? And they lose control of it because they don't have, I don't have an IP address for my data away. That's the fact. So the first thing they do is that binding of a set of controls innately to that data. That's the first problem. It has to do, and I don't want to get too far afield here because I can devolve into the technical and stuff. So, but one of the things that happens is there's a thing, and DLP is a perfect example. DNS is a perfect example. There's a concept in our industry called attack surface. Attack surface can be thought of as the generic application of everything you know. Let's say, for example, that you use, pick one, Symantec. And I'm a hacker, and I decided, my expertise for the day, the work I'm probably going to do all day long, I'm going to study Symantec, because I've got some girlfriend over here. So all of a sudden I become expert in Symantec. Well, I become expert in, yes, hacking her Symantec, but guess what? Symantec has 200 million installations, right? I became expert in 200 million things. I know I may not apply it, it may take some additional work to apply that, but that's called attack surface. If you become familiar with IBM, the way they do things, FireEye is a pretty good example. FireEye has another innovative technology, which is kind of hilarious when you actually know it. They expand. When they see you coming into your server, they expand and they mount full website, full pathways, and whatever. And any hacker with salt says when the minute he sees